Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today I'm gonna get this little EG on the dyno, little turbo B18B. This car has a top mount turbo manifold, looks like an eBay, I don't know, 35R or something. Might be a little smaller than like a 3582. It's hard to tell, especially with these eBay turbos. They're not really like, you know, AR70 M24, sure. Top mount, it has a Hunter tuned 44mm wastegate on it, which we're going to take apart here first. We got some injectors installed in the last video and a fuel pump. I also put a Speed Factory 4-bar map sensor on it that he had in the car, and I got my dyno wideband and stuff all set up ready to go. But first we're going to take the wastegate off and we're going to check the springs inside of it, because when he dropped the car off, he actually mentioned to me that he put all the springs in the wastegate. And this is a stock B18B. And I don't know how much boost we really want to make on the stock motor. It's on E85. We're going to try to make some good power with it, but at the end of the day, we want to be smart and not shoot for the moon right away. And if we have all of the springs in the wastegate, it's probably going to make like 18 or 20 pounds, I would think, which might be cool, and the motor might take that. It probably will take that, but this is his first turbo car, and I think if we set him up with like 350 horsepower, it's always a good place to start with your first turbo Honda. I think if you jump into like 400 horsepower right away, it can be a lot. So, and you can't appreciate the build up to power. So if you, like, one of my first turbo Hondas made like 200 horsepower, then my second one made like 250, then my next one made 300, then the next one made 400, etc. And it keeps the excitement in the car and building and making better and stuff like that, because that's what this hobby is about. At the end of the day, we want to continue growing and continue improving and stuff like that. And if you just jump into 400 or 500 horsepower right away, you can't respect the build-up, if you know what I'm talking about, guys. So that's what I kind of believe in, you know. But we'll see what she does. We're also going to pull the spark plugs out of it. I don't know what plugs are in this thing. We're going to verify that. And yeah, but first we're going to get the wastegate off and check those springs out. Alright guys, so we got the little EG on the dyno. I got it all strapped down, and I just pulled the spark plug out of it to check and see what's in here. And unfortunately we have a heat range 5. It's a stock spark plug that's in here currently. So we're going to swap those out for a set of NGK BKR 7s. So we'll throw those in, and I'm going to leave the wastegate for now, because I think this guy wants to make like 350. And anything more than that, he'll be happy. I just don't really want to on the stock motor, but we're gonna just play it safe, see what kind of boost it makes, and go from there. I have the boost cut at 15, and I'm gonna see where it levels off with all 3 springs. I think because these gates come with a 4, 6, and an 8, depending on the setup and stuff like that, it will make a little bit less or a little bit more than that. And this thing being sourced right from the turbo right to the wastegate, and you know, pretty good manifold and stuff like that, I don't think it's actually going to make a ton of boost, but we'll find out. I did just drive it on the dyno and got some of the cruising figured out on the tune, and I can already tell that this thing is going to be pretty lazy. The turbo is quite large for this non-VTEC motor, especially, you know, only being able to rev about 7 or 7,500. But it is already making 172 horsepower at 4 grand, like 4,300. So this is the power curve currently. I got to swap the spark plugs before we go any farther, but I don't think it's really going to make peak power till like way out here, 5,500 or so. So it's only going to have about a 1,500 RPM power band, which is unfortunate. But maybe he'll switch up the turbo and go to something smaller later, just so it's a little bit more responsive. I always tell you guys, don't over turbo your car, but he got a good deal on this setup, so he just threw it on. But this thing with like a 58 or even like the 40, the 50, I think VS Racing now has like a 52, something like that on this thing would be super fun. Especially a non-VTEC car, you kind of really want that turbo response. and I don't think this setup's really going to do that. But it should still make power, but for a small amount of time. And a small turbo is still going to make the same amount of power. It's just going to make it for a longer period of time. That's why I tell you guys don't over turbo it, because you could make this kind of horsepower with a much smaller turbo on the same boost. That's a kind of a big misconception. I might piss people off saying this, but if your turbo is not capped out, it's not creating back pressure, a smaller turbo is still going to make the same horsepower or very close to the same horsepower as a larger unit if the back pressure and everything is the same, temperatures, etc., etc. And I plan on doing a test maybe on my single cam car or some other car possibly, where we're actually going to compare on the dyno between what a smaller turbo makes to a big turbo, and we'll literally do a turbo swap on the dyno and show you guys it doesn't really make a difference until the small turbo's capped out, if that makes sense. And with this thing being a lazier turbo, it's going to make that power at higher RPM, which is actually going to be safer on the motor anyways. If you can make your horsepower higher in the RPM, it's actually less stressful on the motor than making a ton of power at low RPM is actually a lot harder on the bottom end and the rods and everything like that. But go check out Richard Holdner's videos if you guys haven't seen them. He does a lot of engine dyno testing, and he swaps different turbos on and shows different response rates and power and stuff like that, and I've learned a lot from his channel, guys. So if you guys are trying to learn and stuff like that, definitely go check out Richard Holdner on YouTube. He does a lot of really good testing and a lot of you know, kind of no bullshit proof videos, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. So let's go get a set of spark plugs and we'll come back and hopefully be able to do a pull. Alright guys, just got the car back up and running with a set of BKR7 spark plugs. And just warming it up a little bit, and we're gonna do a pull, see if we can see where the boost is gonna level off. I have the cut at 15. I might go up to like 18 on the boost cut just to see if we can get it to level before that. And I got my air fuel like a 1020, and the timing is really conservative. So at 18 pounds, I think we're only running like 14 degrees. This is on E85, so we should be in the ballpark. Let's see how this thing spools up. Alright, so I think I saw about 12 pounds of boost there on the log, and up top I think it might have been getting a little rich. I want to see what kind of power we were making. It definitely started coming into power pretty hard. 250 horsepower, 280 foot-pounds of torque, about 5,000 RPM, and I almost want to say it was starting to spin on the dyno. These tires are kind of muddy, so might just have to put a little bit more heat in them and give it another go. But I'm sure when this thing actually lights off, it's going to kind of come in aggressively, so we got to watch the tires here, make sure that we're strapped nice and tight. I think the gate was opening, but it was spinning, so I don't think it was able to really build the boost. So let's try it again and see what we can do this time. Starting to come into some power now. That was about 6,400 I saw. And another thing too that I forgot to mention, we just made 319 horsepower, so that's pretty awesome. 320 horse and 312 foot-pounds of torque. This is about 13.8 pounds of boost. It's not quite peaked yet, but I forgot to mention, this guy also told me that this thing has a stage 1 clutch. So I think maybe the first couple pulls I was doing, the clutch was slipping. But it seemed like it started to grab around 6,500. So I think if I just stay in it a little bit, it should hold in there. And I'm hoping we can make a little bit more power. We should be able to make like 350 out of about 14 or 15 pounds. I kind of gambled on this wastegate spring setup, but I kind of figured this thing would make what I wanted it to make with the springs he had in there. So maybe he did a good job and saved me a little bit of time by springing the gate up like that to make his power goal. But he might need to put a clutch in it, because this kind of torque, I don't think that stage 1 clutch is going to be rated for it. But yeah, I'm going to do another one. Air fuel was beautiful. It was a little rich coming into it. I might lean that out a little, and then we're just gonna try to spin it up to almost the rev limiter at 7,000 RPM and see how it does then. That thing was making some jam. I hung in it a little bit longer RPM. Oh yeah, now we're painting a power curve, baby. 348 to the wheels. Power curve's not looking too bad actually, now that I am able to stay in it a little bit longer. We have a power curve from about 4,900 or so all the way to redline, so we have a little bit over 2,000 RPM of peak torque here. Peak torque at 309 foot-pounds of torque, 348 horsepower. Let me show you the power curve here once I get this stuff cleared out so it's a little easier to see. So this is what we're looking like currently, and honestly, not that bad. I feel like we could rev it a little bit higher yet and make even more. That was about 15 pounds of boost. And it's making some good power, guys. I'm pretty happy. It did have a rich spot going from like when the boost kind of snapped in, so like it would build 6, 7, 8 pounds, and then it would snap to like 14 or 15 pounds. That transition spot on the map I have to adjust, but other than that, like, it's running pretty damn good. I'm pretty excited. So not too bad for a non-VTEC motor, but this thing made like 170 or something all motor. So 14 or 15 pounds, I mean, we're pretty much exactly where we should be. 14.7, we should be double naturally aspirated horsepower. If you guys watch back, this thing made, I can't remember exactly what it made, but it was like 170 or something to the wheels, which 14 pounds, 170 times 2 would be 340. So we're right there, 350, and we're like 14.98 pounds of boost, I think the data log said. So yeah, we're like right on the money. That just shows that this setup is efficient and it's not really choked up. Obviously it's got a top mount and an up pipe. Here's our max boost, 14.3. Yeah, and this transition over here is what I was talking about. That's what I was trying to work in. I had it really rich up top because I didn't know how much boost it was going to make. So I have to smoothen that out a little bit, and that's about it. I was going to show you guys the dead times I'm using too. I do have to adjust the idle on this car because it does idle at like 600 RPM, and it doesn't want to start. Yeah, and this guy's got like a safety chip or something in here that he said falls out sometimes. Yeah, I gotta definitely set the mechanical idle a little bit higher on this thing. Once it's running, it's fine. It'll come back down to idle. Maybe not. Yeah, I definitely have to fix that. Man, this thing sounds great though. Yeah, it's barely idling. Like 300 and it's surging up to like 800. So I definitely have to fix that. But after a pull, it was running like on the log 650 RPM and it was idling good. But to get it to idle a little bit smoother, we're gonna bump up that mechanical idle a little bit. And this thing should be all set. I'm gonna do probably one more pull and we're gonna see if we can crack 350. But this thing's turning out pretty awesome actually. That was about 6,900 RPM. This thing definitely needs an oil catch can. It doesn't have any venting on the motor, so it would definitely benefit from an oil catch can. You can pick one of those up at huntertune.com along with your new wastegate and blow-off valve. But this is what I'm talking about. Once you do a pull and stuff, the thing idles really low. I'm just gonna show you that I'm gonna have to bump up that mechanical idle. This is also the data log from that run. So you can see our peak RPM was like 6,800 and our peak boost was like 14 point something there, like 14 and a half. 198 degree coolant temp, 85 degree intake air. Everything looks good there. What was I gonna show you guys? Oh, we're gonna connect here and I'm gonna show you the RPM this thing's idling at right now. 600. Look how steady the air fuel is too, that's pretty cool. I was gonna show you guys dead times on the Hunter Tune injectors. These are the times I'm using for HTS on the thousands. They seem to work out okay, so. But every setup's a little different. And sometimes I actually play with dead times because a machine will spit out a certain dead time, but a car might want something a little different. So sometimes I do play around with them a little bit to get this thing to do what I want it to. But you can see here that our map is nice and smooth. coming off idle and everything like that, all in the cruising area, is actually really rich right now. So if we brought this back down, it would pretty much match idle. And that's kind of what a lot of guys get, you know, they wonder about, is if their idle area is really rich or really lean, they get upset about it. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. This one's a little bit lower than the rest of the map for idle, but you know, big injector stuff. I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, let's see what that last pull just made for power. I'm really kind of curious, because I bet you this thing just made like 360. Pray for the clutch. Yeah, I painted the exact same picture here. You can see that it just went a little bit higher because I revved it a little bit higher. The dyno might be off just a little bit RPM wise, but I saw 6,800 on the data log, and we just made 353, 310 foot-pounds. So not too bad of a power curve. It could be better. If it had a smaller turbo, this would be down here for peak torque, but it's still not too bad. This guy should be really stoked with this, and it's probably gonna blow him away. This thing's gonna burn all through third gear, and hopefully make him smile. So, but that's gonna be it for now, guys. I'm gonna do a few little touch-ups with the idle. We're gonna bump up the mechanical idle speed here just a little bit, and then this thing will be all wrapped up. So have a great night and a better tomorrow, guys. God bless. We'll see you later. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. See ya.